There's something
Mhm.
that was recovered that is not from here at all. The UFO crash retrieval programs. What even is that? What is a UFO crash retrieval program? And what is the Office of Global Access?
I mean, are you surprised at non-human biologics? And
Uh,
by the way, I was thinking about this the other day.
yeah.
Non-human biologics could mean anything.
Yeah.
Anything. My dog is non-human and it's a biologic, you know?
Right. Yeah,
And
so
all
our
that
dog's
could mean
piloting these
is,
UFOs.
well, if you, so again, this is another, I guess, alternate reality that is being suggested. And here's my issue with it. Something as simple as Roswell, which is like the entry point for a lot of people. You hear so many conflicting things on what actually crashed, right? Some people say there was two crashes, right? And some people say, there's
Which there
varying
was.
numbers on how many occupants there were. There's
Mhm.
varying numbers on who was behind it, right? Was it
Yeah.
extraterrestrial? Someone like Tom DeLonge, right? I
Mhm.
think I mentioned this last time.
Yep.
He suggested that the flying saucer was German. And if you look into that, there is credibility to that side of the narrative, right? So, meaning that at the time we talked about this on the last podcast, Germans were working on working models of flying saucers that they got the blueprints to somehow, right? A lot of people also say they got it because one of the first UFO crashes was in the Black Forest in Germany in 1936, which is almost a decade before, about a decade before Roswell, right? So, there's credibility to that. It could have been German, which means the occupants could have been anything, right? And this is another girl who's, I believe, just because she's a female reporter, got led far astray. But she was on Joe Rogan's podcast and she had a whole book about it where she said it was fucking like Russian spies that they put like,
From. Yep.
people on it to make it look weird. And so, okay, what if it was the Germans and they put a bunch of fucking dogs inside of this thing and crash it in the desert?
Right.
You know,
Then does
no,
that deem it non-human biologics? Totally.
right.
No, of course. But we know the usage of that terminology and why he says it in that way. It's definitely something that's not from here. That's a known fact, right? There's something
Mhm.
that was recovered that is not from here at all. And that's what compels them to say that non-human biologics from the jump.
Do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
Biologics came with some of these recoveries, yeah.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
So
Yeah.
when you really look at it, I mean, the you know this UFO, the recent UFO hearing that they just had, a lot of Grush's claims were confirmed in the eyes of several Congress people, and so that's pretty big because what Grush said during that hearing, I mean, he knows he's talked to people who have had uh, who are working in the UFO crash retrieval programs. What even is that? What is a UFO crash retrieval program? And what is the Office of Global Access, right? That's like a special
Yeah.
branch in, did you hear about that? That's like a special branch in like the CIA or some shit where
Yeah.
they apparently go and they collect the material and then analyze it or distribute it to private
Yeah.
aerospace companies or contractors. So what it's just fucky, bro. It's weird.
So, I
It's
mean,
weird.
at the same time, a lot of what's being talked about, even by Grush, and I'm sure Grush even knows this, but the way they present information to Congress, they present it to them as with the assumption that they don't know anything about it, that they're not actively looking up the UFO conspiracy. Because when he mentions things like UFO crash retrieval programs, right?
Yeah.
That is a detail that gets Congress interested because it's a program they were unaware of. But at the same time, he's not the first whistleblower to mention stuff like that.
Hmm.
There are obviously whistleblowers who have indicated some sort of program that exists. I don't know if you've seen this guy. He has like a lisp and he does like a lot of interviews on Gaia, but he claims he actually used to work within the military as a guy who was part of the crash retrieval program, and he's been talking about this shit on Gaia for fucking years. And so
I mean, I wouldn't get my news from Gaia, but
right.
but at the same time, I mean, you don't want to, you want to maintain an open mind for sure. What's his name?
I forget his fucking name, but
Is he like,
if you look him up, he was a genius as a kid, and so this is legit. He like was creating like rocket propulsion systems and science fairs as a 11-year-old, right? So the fact that he may be someone of interest to be pulled in to a program like that would make sense. And so he claims that he was like shown a bunch of UFOs at Area 51. He claims
Clifford
he's part
Stone?
of these. Yes, that's him.
Clifford Stone?
Yeah. So he was the first person that I heard introduce the concept of a whole program dedicated to UFO crash retrievals, which he claims he was actually part of. Yeah. And he has like a weird speech impediment. But like when you listen to a lot of his stuff, a lot of his information is like very like, I guess, fringe, for lack of a better word. Like depending on how deep you go into this rabbit hole, the deeper stuff starts to be so far outside of your realm of reality that it sounds like this is from a comic book. You're making this up, right? Even him, he claims that he has like psychic powers and he was telepathically communicating with these spaceships. He was saying the ships themselves were themselves were conscious and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And so
I've heard that.